Chapter 905. 365. Big. The dealer's voice trembled as she spoke. The onlookers cried out in shock. This guy's luck was really something else. He had placed $10 million down on this bet. The other two men flushed an ugly shade of purple at once. After all, they had just lost over $4 million in one go. Tiff, standing behind Wilbur, felt like she was about to have a heart attack. Despite the fact that she was used to watching people gamble while working here, gambling like this was far too risky and she could hardly take it. The person in charge began counting Wilbur's winnings. She took away the chips in front of the two men before putting Wilbur's winnings down. There were about $20 million in chips that were pushed back to Wilbur this time. Wilbur looked over at the two men with a smile. Of course, the two men saw this as a challenge. Their expression darkened, and one of them said, "Wanna play again? I dare you." "Why not?" Wilbur smiled. "Manager," one of the men shouted, and a beautiful lady walked over at once. Both men each took out a black card, handing it over to the manager. "Get us $10 million worth of chips right now." The manager took the cards with a smile. "Of course, gentlemen. You're both VIP members of our casino who have spent over $100 million here. Your chips will be brought over in no time." She sped off after that. The two men sneered coldly, looking over at Wilbur smugly. The black card they had just handed over only belonged to rich people who were regulars of this place and had their identities validated. They could be used as debit cards in the casino. How much money was in the cards depended on how much the owners of the cards could afford to put in, of course. To tell the truth, $100 million was already an extravagant sum, so it was understandable that both men seemed so arrogant. Wilbur smiled. "What are your names, gentlemen?" "Edward Borton, CEO of Borton Corp." "Jesse Dewar, CEO of Dewar Corp." Both men revealed their identities haughtily. Wilbur smiled. Another case of rich heirs who came from wealthy backgrounds. There was no other explanation for how they had come into such power and money at such a young age, judging from how they saw money and the way they behaved. It was clear they had been spoiled from a young age. "What's your name?" Edward asked coldly. Wilbur looked up. "Ah, I'm a nobody. The name's Wilbur Penn." "Wilbur Penn?" Jesse snorted arrogantly. "Must have felt pretty good just now to win over us, huh?" "Of course not. It's all just luck." Wilbur smiled. The other gamblers at the table had taken several steps back to keep a distance. It was clear that there was bad blood between both parties, and it was going to be quite a show. Everyone wanted to watch, but at the same time, did not want to get themselves into trouble, so they moved a few meters back. Tiff sat next to Wilbur Till, not knowing what to do. She wanted to persuade Wilbur against gambling out of spite in case he lost all his money and got himself into trouble. But from the look of things, it was unlikely that Wilbur would listen to her. She might even get into trouble for that. In the end, she sighed quietly. All Tiff could do was hope that Wilbur's luck persisted. He seemed like a nice guy, tipping her $100,000 without trying to get anything from her. People like that hardly existed anymore. Just then, the manager came over with two hostesses, and each hostess was holding $10 million in gambling chips, which they placed in front of the two men. "Please enjoy your game, sirs. Feel free to send for me if you need anything else." The manager greeted everyone politely. She had the two hostesses each stand behind one of the men before turning to leave, but not before stealing a glance at Wilbur.